I wanted to make sure I still, he didn't lose a step, but it didn't take long. Once I got there and I started walking around, and we got shooting a little bit, and then we just set the pace and started going, and Tim and we all laughed and looked and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this," and then everybody forgot about it and just went to work. Everybody just showed up and went to work, and it was just fun every day. I say what I always say. I don't quite know specifically what it is, but it's a good chemistry, and he and I are similar in that we go, I don't know, I could think of reasons, I guess. I mean, in a lot of ways we're very similar, actually. In other ways we're just very, very different. But I just know that when you're around, generally speaking, when I'm around artists or really creative people, or people have an idea, or I'm somewhere and at a gallery or something, I think, wow, I wonder where that came from. When you're in it, and then you get to share it and then contribute to it. That's special, And now a lot of people would say, well, every movie's like that, but it's not really. My experience isn't. It's just different from anybody else. And I've liked all my directors, but this is just, I don't know what it is. Tim and I had been talking about this, and when I said, we have to bring Catherine back, and he said, yeah, I know Anne Winona. I said, yeah, and it was, there, and really, when you look at it, and then you see Jenna, you think, well, of course, people say, well, she was born to play this. Sometimes I look and I go, no, I think literally she was born to play this, because you'd say there almost is no movie if it's not, she, as you know, it's really kind of her movie, her story comes out of her. And then, then it goes to Winona's character as the mom, and then, the rest of us just kind of contribute to it. But having those women, was key. I read that in the script. The idea of it made me laugh so hard, and then when I saw it, and I'm not going to talk about it too specifically because I want people to go see it in the movie, but when I saw those scenes, especially the one, it's just kind of brilliant.
I think you can easily categorize or identify, which made it surprising, which has made it something for me, which was just something very special. Because anytime you're surprised by something in a positive way, it's beautiful. Well, it took, 35 years, and I think it was really the thing about, remember that I really identified with the Lydia character, as a teenager. It was the way that I felt, and I felt very strongly identifying with her. So I just sort of wondered, well, what happened to her 35 years later? It's kind of like, it's not a movie that could have been made in like 1989. It really was the anchor to this. To see 3 generations of the Dietz, grandmother, mother, daughter, granddaughter. That was the anchor for me. That was the thing that interested me, and this is the only thing that you can do with your own knowledge of growing up, It's like, what happens to you from a teenager? What are your relationships like? What are your, what path do you take? Do you have children? You know what I mean? What are your children like? Those are the kind of things that intrigued me and gave it a realistic basis and made it very personal, and a lot of things that I can use from my own life in terms of my own strange journey. I think it took time. That's why I said Michael and I talked about it, and Winona and I talked about it over the years on and off, but nothing really clicked. It really had to do for me about the time and the sort of using my own experience of, going from not cool teenager, but disturbed teenager to disturbed adult or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, it's your life, and you can only really do that once you've experienced it, and so that's what made the film very emotional for me and very personal to make. I mean, I've used all sorts of technology through for whatever film required it, but one of the original feelings that I wanted to, and was very important to this, is to kind of do it in the spirit that we did the first one, where you do all practical effects and puppets and makeup and sets, and shoot it quickly and shoot it with a kind of the same kind of spirit that we did from the first one. And in fact, that was a very, very crucial thing in it. And because I have such great actors, the idea of improving and making stuff up every day on the set, everybody really contributed to their character greatly. So it gives it a kind of creative spirit that you don't usually get on every movie. You're kind of bogged down by the sort of weight of something or the technology of it. And this was just trying to go back old school and kind of make it like quick and in the spirit of the first. It was part of the energy of it to have everybody kind of chip in and contribute to their character, and it gives it an energy on the set and a creative spark that, like I said, you don't get every day. We didn't want to overdo it. I mean, we learned a little bit more. We see him more in the afterlife in his job, which is different from the first. And we give him a little bit of a backstory, which says a little bit about who he was or is or whatever. But we didn't want to do too much. We wanted to keep him off kilter and keep him, like I said, like in the spirit of the first, where you don't know everything about him. And that was important too, to kind of get in terms of the spirit. That's what I grew up on, movies. I mean, movies, and there's nothing, all the talk about just streaming and TV and whatever. Thankfully, it seems, clear that movies are still very, very important to some people. You know what I mean? And the big screen experience is still very magical and still very powerful. And so I think it's, in some way, shape, or form, it will all be here. You know what I mean? And with things like IMAX or Dolby and things like all these new different formats, you could experience it even greater that way. It's really just a weird family story, basically. It's the thing I said was interesting to me is the three generations of Jeet's women. Mother, daughter, granddaughter, and that's the thing that focused me, and just a simple basic life exploration of those relationships and life and death and what happens to you as you go older. The different peaks and valleys and right and left turns that you take, but just keeping it very simple, like simply a weird family story. In doing the movie, I remember just in the first day shooting with Catherine and Winona, and then Michael, the original cast members, I was surprised how emotional I got. It was like, I almost started crying. It was like, it sort of surprised me because I didn't really expect that to happen. But it was beautiful. It made it even more special to make. And then also you add the great cast, the new people, Justin, Jenna, Monica, Willem Dafoe. All these people really brought a lot to it. So it was like an old family and a new family. It was like I said, it's really nice when you work with people that you both respect, and then they turn out to be really cool and great to work with. So I was very lucky. We didn't rehearse anything, because we shot this very quickly. So he comes on set as Beetlejuice, and literally it was like demon possession. I was like, I couldn't, it was almost disturbing. And even I could look around, the crew was going like, oh my God. It was like going into a time warp. He just, and I don't think he's sitting there and practicing in front of a mirror, but he's definitely just boom, went right back into it. It was almost kind of chilling in a way.
I think it wasn't until, I drove out to Malibu to meet with him, and he gave me this. I'd never been given a script. So, and then I was like, so, is this like in a couple of years? And he's like, oh no, this is like it's gonna happen like next. Like it was at the end of the year, and it was gonna happen in a few months. And so I was just. I couldn't believe it. I remember being in the car on the way home going like, oh my, and then it had been so abstract for so long, and then the terror really kicked in of like, what, you know, I naturally get anxiety before I start something, but I think there was something about this that was like, it was so exciting and thrilling, and I was going to get to be with all these people I love and I've known forever, but I was also like terrified. And then on the first day, because we started with the ghost house thing, and I was like, how am I gonna, should she be on like autopilot, you know, how, and then Tim came up to me and he was like, let's try one where you're just really sincere. And when he said that, like something just clicked, and I realized like Lydia is a very sincere person. Like she is weird, and she's, you know, in the first one she's dramatic and she's like sort of cynical and stuff, but she is actually very sincere, and there's something really pure about her. And that, as soon as he said that, like everything just kind of locked into place. And that was sort of remarkable. The fact that he was able to recreate also the same vibe as the first one, which was kind of felt independent, like didn't get the sense of like the studio, like, you know, doing that. It felt like very spontaneous and like, oh, let's try this. And with him, because I trust him 1,000%, you can like try something, and if it doesn't work, he's not going to use it, you know? So it was just that fact that he was able to recreate that environment was wild to me because of all the buzz and anticipation.
Yeah.
And like everyone, we've all talked about that, you know? I remember every moment of it, because when I got there, I was like, I have to be present for every single moment I'm on this, because this just doesn't happen. Like this is so special. And I made sort of like a very conscious, like just remain present, because it was very emotional for me, actually. Like, I mean, seeing Michael for the first time, you know, and then seeing him in makeup, and like and Catherine, and of course, like it's like sacred bond with Jenna that was sort of insanely just magical. Like it's like soulmates almost, you know, and it was, there's a lot of love in the movie. There's a lot of heart that I don't know if it was like in the first one, you know, but it feels like this one, the relationships are, they're sort of like more on the line, and you're a little bit more, you know, invested, yeah. And it was really one of the most special experiences I've had. First time I ever saw him as Beetlejuice, like I remember that moment when I was 15, and I remember like how the light was hitting him and what, you know, and it was literally like the same thing, but I welled up, because he's also Michael Keaton is one of the most like profoundly kind, protective actors that I've ever worked with. He was so, he was very protective. Tim was always very protective too of Lydia. And, you know, Michael has this kindness and this, and he's brilliant, and he's he's like the king of improv, him and Catherine. So every take is like a little bit different, and have so much love for him. And I remember, because at first, people were like, come here, come here, come here. And I was like, I don't want this to be, because I knew, I think I must have known I was going to get emotional, but I kind of poked my head out and I saw him and was, from a little bit far away, and he turned and I just like ran to him. Because
That's sweet.
it was like, he almost, it's almost, he spoiled me, like, because I remember after Beetlejuice, I was like, oh my God, actors are just like the best. And then like, oh, I guess not everyone is like Michael, but he's
amazing.
It was really special.
Well, he's completely singular. There's nobody like Beetlejuice. There's he's kind of, I feel like he's more than an individual. He's like this sort of just entity, energy, spirit. You can't really place him, and I can't. There's no other character like that.
That's great. His confidence, I think, is very appealing.
Yeah.
People want to be like him, except for the dead part. Yeah. And the movie's just scary and hilarious at the same time, and just so beautifully executed. And it's an art form, an original art form by Tim Burton.
Astrid is Lydia Dietz's daughter, and she doesn't get along with her mom very much. Maybe Lydia wasn't very nurturing towards her. I think Astrid really just holds a lot of resentment towards her for divorcing her father, sending her away to boarding school. She felt like her mom just didn't really want to put the time and effort into forming a relationship with her, and Astrid's also dealing with the death of her father. So she's just kind of got this confused state about her. At school she gets bullied because of her mom's ghost stories and persona. So there's just she feels the weight of the world on her shoulders, and not that she cares about anyone's opinions or anything like that, but she's just very over it. I think she holds a lot of anger and doesn't know where to place it.
She and Lydia have grown to appreciate each other. She cares for Lydia. She wishes the best for her. She's not enough of a mother to really guide her, but, by accident, she might actually help Lydia once in a while. And I think Delia really enjoys watching Astrid give Lydia a hard time, but also we both care about Lydia. And she's just Astrid's a cool kid. She's gonna be okay. It's like she's smart ass, and I enjoy watching her, mistreat Lydia, but she's cool. It's the only way I want to work. I'm spoiled from my early days, and once you work that way, it's just, isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's so easy. I feel like the best ideas often come from that space and that comfortability, because you can fall on your face and it doesn't matter. It's still funnier.
And
it's just workshopping. Yeah, everyone's throwing out things, and you just try, you just keep throwing things at the wall and see if they stick.
Right, but it's all under the guidance of Tim. I mean, he knows where he wants to go. He knows what he wants in the scene. It's the confidence that he has in his own talent. And when people are confident and good, they're not afraid of ideas. They're not afraid of collaboration.
The world that he creates is so specific that it's like putting on like a good costume. When you put on that costume and suddenly everything feels right, and you know the way you want to walk and talk, and that's kind of what his sets are like, where yes, it is all crazy ideas, but you're still somewhat in the vein of what he wants, because he's orchestrated and composed everything to go that way.
Right, you're in the right headspace.
Yeah.
So your ideas are not like coming out of nowhere. They're they're inspired by him and by the script and the world that he creates. They're all lovely people, really talented. They were all feeling the same way I did. I think Tim just made us feel like it's gonna work out. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, we're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. And so we were all, jumping in, just like holding hands and jumping, and it felt great.
I felt so lucky. I felt like I had pulled off some elaborate scheme and made it. I feel like I fooled everyone. I never would have thought that they would bring Beetlejuice back, or that I would get the opportunity to work with Catherine and Michael and Winona, call Winona Mom. It's just a very strange but beautiful and such it's just an experience that I'm incredibly grateful and honored to have had. yeah, I think it's hard to comprehend.
Tim on set is so precise. He knows what he wants, and his creative energy really inspired everybody. And he loves to draw, so there are always drawings of a situation and characters, and this is very helpful for the actors. And he loves to use practical effects instead of CGI. So you really can react to real monsters instead of a green screen, and so you can go farther with your fantasy, your imagination. Very collaborative, and he really give you the possibility to be free to express yourself. So even for an actor, it's amazing to work that way. Dolores, I mean, she's a soul-sucking demon in the afterlife. And while Beetlejuice hunts everybody, she hunts him. And she's a Beetlejuice's bride. They had a short and intense love story that ended very badly, in death, actually. And when she wakes up in the afterlife, full of rage and desperation and obsessed with vengeance, she puts herself back together in a scene that is almost like a horror dancing scene. And it took 2-3 days to film it, and I felt a bit like a mime, because this role is very much about body language. So I tried to play like a broken doll, and it was so much fun, I have to say. And then what I like about her is this duality that she has, because she's scary but also funny. And to me, she's a metaphor of life, because we all have emotional scars, and she has all these scars, but she's strong and she's coming back. So there is something human about her, even though she's always in the netherworld. Almost all my scenes are with Michael, and it's funny because we had a funny, intimate scene to play. He was very kind, very generous, and also for me it was so interesting to see this creative synergy between Tim and Michael through the years, and I'm so honored to be part of this amazing cast and to enter into Tim's fantastic, poetic, magical world.
Obviously, you'd be crazy if it wasn't a little intimidating, but Tim has done such an incredible job of surrounding each one of us with enormous talent, you know, whether that's directorially, from sets to props to puppetry to costumes to wardrobe to, and then eventually to the cast, which, you know, he just assembles an incredibly tight, creative, exceptional team. You know, it is like the Chicago Bulls in 1990, whatever. You know, like, so when you get on set, 95% of the work is already done for you. It's all there. The world is there. The script was there, and we were able to just have fun and play. This is one of those films that, you know, even in Tim's oeuvre, that really, I think, succeeds more, and I think Tim knows that. You know, when he lets everyone turn their own volume knob up to, you know, 11, particularly with Michael, who's so good at it and so energetic. But everyone has like a really, it was like everyone has a sort of a very similar funny bone. We all knew the tone and the tenor that we were all supposed to be, the key that we were supposed to be singing in. Mm-hmm. So it just was really fun. I always saw it as like a very sort of poignant comedy, coming of age story for Lydia, you know, with this incredible character that comes out of nowhere. It's a very original character of Beetlejuice. And I rack my brains as to why he's so beloved. I mean, I love him, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly why, because he's, for all intents and purposes, a villain. Rory is the love interest of Lydia, and her producer and kind of her manager, and he's sort of this oily, insincere, but overly emotional narcissist. That's the best way to describe him, I guess. I think there's some comfort in knowing that there's a couple other people on set that are trying to sing in the same key as they are. It was really fun watching Winona and Michael sort of reunite. Just magical seeing all those characters play together. And then it's just, and at a certain point, you know, after the first sort of couple takes, really, it just became fun. Like, it just became a bunch of actors with an incredible director making each other laugh, and in this crazy heightened world that somehow works when all these people are put together. I nerded out on certainly seeing Michael in that wardrobe and doing that voice and having that physicality, but then I also completely nerded out on just the puppetry, the mechanics of the practical effects, the sort of the animatronics. I mean, all that stuff was just like so much fun. So like we'd do the take, and then I would go back between takes and talk to the puppeteers and see how they control the things, or the Bob character, or that part was really fun. I would conjure every dog that I have had to say goodbye to in my life. I would love to say their names and have them all come charging through that door. And of course, several loved ones as well. They're gonna have a really good time, and I say that with extreme confidence. Like, I don't think there'll be any fans that are disappointed. This film does a really wonderful job of sort of scratching all the itches that you wanted it to scratch as far as, you know, paying reverence to the first one. But I think it grows in a way that's just the right size. It is a bigger film, but it still has that very almost independent feel to it. You know, has a very handmade quality, and it's incredibly good filmmaking, you know. So I think people, and it's got a strange sort of message at the end, you know, that, or a poignant message that I would not have expected.